I go through ebbs and flows. And
Right.
for anybody listening right now, you need to start identifying that this might be you as well. Because if we
Hmm.
think about it, we have this very unrealistic ideal of what productivity should look like. If I'm not waking up at 4 in the morning and hustling and going to bed late, in the meanwhile, I'm also keeping a tidy house and cooking nutritious meals and educating my children and being a wonderful part. It's like nobody can do all that. Just let it go.
Hmm.
Just let it go. Like nobody can.
This is the online trainer show, trainer show, trainer show. This is the online trainer show.
We shouldn't have a podcast. I just straight up tell people to buy the Online Trainer Academy at this point. Because it's like, if you're asking me the difference between 4 payment processors,
Yeah.
the amount of inefficiencies and problems and holes that you have that you don't even know
True.
exist with your online training business, that you can just bypass all of them. I mean, I could probably list 10 things, and 9 of them this person wouldn't have even thought of, or certainly isn't doing well. And it I said, like, and afterwards, like, I said to her straight up, I'm like, he needs to enroll in the Online Trainer Academy. Like, if he has this question, I can tell you right now that he needs to enroll. And this has changed in me. Perhaps it's just me becoming more curmudgeon as I get older, but like, it's kind of a switch that's just flipped. I have so much absurd confidence in what we do and what we deliver at this point. And I know that it is just so unbelievably valuable that I'm just like, you just need to buy this. Like, stop messing around.
Yeah.
And
Jonathan is now the equivalent of, the guy being all like, get off my lawn. Get off my virtual lawn.
Kind of. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I answered a question afterwards, and the answer is, surprise, surprise, it makes not a lick of difference.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's like, pick one. We talked about it a few weeks ago. I think PayPal or Stripe is probably the best, simply because they're trusted on the internet. Like, even if it's like a couple parts of a percent more in fees, which it actually isn't. But even if it is, you can find a way to save like 0.02% on a transaction. Like, that makes so little difference in the great scheme of things. And if you can use a payment processor that your people actually trust, like, clearly that's gonna be more valuable. But I don't know, man. It's just, you just should not ever be wondering about questions like that. There are so many. God, there's just so many more important things.
Yeah, I'm here thinking like there's so many other ways that we can totally screw this up. Those are not the things.
Right. That's why. Well, that's kind of what I said. I mean, you're right. If you actually just said it better than me, like, if you're worried about screwing this up and you're asking that question, I am willing to bet that you are screwing this up in many other ways that are way more important than that question that you're asking, right? And that's not like to scare you. I do think that there's something to be said about like taking imperfect action, but if you could skip ahead 10 steps, kind of makes sense to do it.
And you can with the Online Trainer Academy.
Yellow, the Online Trainer Academy.
Llévalo. Red, how was your surgery?
It was awesome. I feel like a new person. I am I'm high on matcha applesauce right now, so that's amazing. Like my blood sugar levels were through the roof. I got nothing but ice cream, applesauce, and peanut butter. So that's amazing. It was a much less arduous process than I thought it was going to be. Although it sounds horrible. Yeah, it sounds horrible descriptively. I mean, effectively, they took some little, for those that aren't familiar and who don't listen to us on a regular basis. Number one, what's your problem? Number two, what we talking about? Yeah, I mean, I just got to call that out. Like, what the hell are you doing with your life? You ain't so great. But I've insulted audience members, and in an effort to increase our listenership, I'm insulting people. But if you weren't, here for the last one, I got my wisdom teeth removed, right? So they took a cotton swab, like a Q-tip. There was some green sticky substance on it. I didn't ask any questions. They rubbed that on my gums, and really didn't notice anything. It felt a little bit numb. Then he said, "Hey, the next part's going to feel like a mosquito bite." That was the needle, Novocaine, I'm guessing. And that needle just kept jabbing me in the gums. I didn't know, couldn't feel it. I just saw the needle going in.
They didn't put you to sleep.
No. He's talking to me the whole time, and I'm doing my best to respond as I'm drooling all over this paper pad that's across my chest. Doing my best to respond.
I appreciate you asking me what I'm going to be doing on the weekend,
right,
but I really just don't
right.
want to be having this small talk conversation right now, Mister.
He asked me about Bitcoin. I gave him some insight. He's like, "Really? You think that high?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, I guess I'll keep it." So I gave him some financial advice while he was poking me in the mouth with needles. He said, "Okay, you should be numb." I was like, "No." He's like, "Okay, good." He said, "So raise your left hand if this feels painful. You're gonna feel some pressure, but you shouldn't feel pain." So he reaches for the wisdom tooth. He pulls. I feel pain, and I raise my left hand because it sort of felt like somebody was trying to take a tooth out of my mouth. He said, surprise. He said, "Let me numb you up a little bit more." I was like, "Okay." So he stuck the needle in again. He's like, "You should be good now." And I couldn't tell the difference. He said, "You're going to feel some pressure." And effectively, the way that I can describe it is, it seemed as if he had both hands in my mouth up to his elbows. He had one foot on the floor. The other foot was on my right shoulder. As he pulled, I felt the pressure. He said, "I can't do anything about the pressure, but you shouldn't be feeling any pain." I'm like, I'm good. You're fully under the hood.
This all sounds like a normal Sunday afternoon for you.
It's just a regular day in my life, Jonathan. These are the instances that you have to look forward to post 40. We'll talk about the colonoscopy another time, but so he puts pressure on it.
Mine was a sexual joke.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay, all right, that makes sense. That's on brand for you, actually. So as I'm sharing the intimate pieces of my life, Jonathan, I'd expect nothing less from you. Keto's pain. Keto cares, and Amber's marginally involved in the conversation. She's thinking about.
I don't care because it doesn't sound like that bad of an experience for you. I had my wisdom teeth when I was young, and I was knocked out, and I was out of commission for like 2 weeks straight.
Well, Jonathan, they don't make millennials like they made Generation Xers. I mean, this is on par with the softness of the millennial, generation. I'm surprised he didn't tie it to a doorknob and slam the front door. That's how Generation X gets down, my friend. So he I didn't even know he pulled the tooth. So I see the string going across my face, the suture. He's like, "You did great, bud. You're done."
Nice.
I had a consult after. Drove myself home. I took some ibuprofen, some 800 milligram ibuprofen Tuesday evening. Took it again Wednesday morning. I'm not medicated at all today. Feeling pretty good. Talking normally. I'm just not going to chew. Just not going to chew on that side. I want things to heal well, but I feel pretty as normal as I am. That's how normal I feel. The level of normalcy that I normally have. That's how normal I feel right now. If normal's a word that I should associate. So I just feel amazing. It was, one of the gentlest experiences. He said, "Hey, you did great." I was like, "Hey, you did too." I mean, what do you say to the dentist when he pulls his teeth and says, "You did great, Mr. Jones"? You could have done a bit better. May wear a flatter shoe so I don't have the footprint on my right shoulder from you pulling the tooth out of my mouth. But it was both intimate, enjoyable, and quick, which most of my intimate experiences are like that. So it was awesome. It was awesome. And here I sit before you, a changed man, a man with less bone in his mouth.
I was actually thinking about on Tuesday when you told us that you were getting your wisdom teeth out. I thought there was no chance you were going to be here on Thursday, and I started to think about the one member of this. What's it called when there's four people? Quad.
Quartet.
Quartet.
There you go,
Yeah.
like Fortress. Fortress?
Yeah, like
the one member of
obviously.
this quartet that actually is not expendable is you. Like I don't think that we would be. It's. We've all seen that we could do it without Carolina and I.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yet to be determined whether we can do it without Amber.
True.
But-
That's absolutely true.
But
Probably
I don't
not.
think there's any way that we could do it without you.
Well,
No.
on one hand, I feel complimented by that. Then I think about the actual product that we turn out, and I'm not sure it's actually a compliment. So I'm not going to say thank you,
guys
or I'm neither going to
guys see
accept nor deny what you said.
Apple Podcasts is now coming out with a premium version where you can get people to pay for your podcast, kind of like a Patreon
really?
or something to
Okay.
support your podcast. There'll be like premium versions, and I
Nice.
just laughed so hard. I'm like, this is not even.
Because nobody's paying for ours. Yeah.
Facebook is
Yeah.
doing that too, or will be. They're introducing podcast stuff and paid podcast.
Who is
stuff.
this?
Facebook.
Who's
Really?
Facebook is doing that too, eh?
They're-
Well,
they're
Facebook.
talking about it.
I know Facebook is like copying Clubhouse and basically just adopting
absolutely.
that, but
Yeah.
which is not a surprise at all.
not.
Did you guys see the Clubhouse numbers? By the
I
way,
did.
Yes, you posted them. It was pretty
Yeah.
shocking.
it's pretty funny. Let me find them.
And-
You guys
and-
talk amongst
and-
yourselves.
And yet, I love the platform.
And there's nothing wrong with it. There's
yeah.
nothing wrong with it. The point that I made posting. So I posted them in the group, and I posted the numbers of Clubhouse downloads, right? And it's just coming up on my phone here. Oh yeah, okay. Clubhouse installs. So these are numbers of like new people installing Clubhouse. In February, it was 9.6 million. In March, it was 2.6 million. And April to date, and this was on April 19th, it was 643,000. Now, if that's not a sign of a dying platform, I don't know what it is. I mean, it just shows you that like the interest is just so low, and because these platforms only survive based off of network effects, basically they're only interesting if there's a massive amount of people using them. And so my point is like the point that I made is like Clubhouse is going to be the next best thing. Like if you're not on it, you're missing out. You have to be on it. You're really going to miss out. It's like no, it's just like Periscope and TikTok and
remember
everything,
Periscope.
because it's so obvious that the minute that any of these things become in any way popular, Facebook is either going to buy them or just copy them anyway. So
Right.
really, all you got to do is just keep building on the Facebook platform if you care about social media. And that's not to say that if you really legitimately enjoy it, like I know Ren, you love it, like great,
Yeah.
keep using it. But
It's awesome.
don't use it or get on it or feel like you're missing out by not using it because you think it has this opportunity, because it's a joke. I mean, it doesn't have an opportunity. It doesn't have a long-term opportunity.
So what I'm hearing is that Clubhouse is kind of like the running of social media.
Right,
People being like,
right.
I want to be fit. I should run. It's like,
should
no,
run.
you should run if you enjoy running. You don't need running for being
Right.
fit. So you don't need
Nobody-
Clubhouse.
nobody
You don't need TikTok. You don't need Instagram to make your business grow. But, if you enjoy it, then go for it.
Absolutely. Nobody needs to run for any reason. I think we can all agree to that. And with these apps, like, don't get bogged down by them. Like, don't get bogged down by social. You can't be everywhere. Number one, but probably even more fundamentally sound than that is like you probably shouldn't be everywhere. That's number two. About media apps is the new favorite thing. What I'm able to do on Facebook is because I was learning how to compartmentalize, how to shorten a message on Snapchat. Like, how do I give a really great message in like 15 seconds? Well, now that pays off on Instagram stories and Facebook stories, but the platform itself is not really that valuable. If it pushes you to a new skill set that you can use somewhere else, video. I learned how to do video through IGTV, right? And people kind of sort of don't watch IGTV as much as they used to. Obviously, they push these things when it's early. But I couldn't have done that the monologue for Jim Gazali's award show. Had it
Right.
not been for the skill set that I developed of doing 3 to 5 minute video on
Yeah.
Instagram stories. So don't immerse yourself in these apps with the thought that if I'm on this app, oh, it's going to take me to the moon. Like it's going to be amazing.
I think
Do
that's
it
the
if
lesson,
you-
right?
I think that's the lesson. That, do it if there's a skill set that you can learn. TikTok, editing short videos. I was never really that good at it. I didn't have to do it, but I've learned how to do that on TikTok. And I did like a birthday video for myself that was reminiscent of Coming to America. It was called Coming to 47, and a lot of people liked it. But I learned that skill on TikTok. But I got a lot of response to it on Facebook. So people were like, "How did you do that video?" So it's basically a TikTok methodology. That's how I did it. But don't get immersed in these social media apps, guys. They're going to break your heart, right? They're like the Carolina Panthers, NFL team. You can go all in if you want to. You can buy the hats and the T-shirts if you want to. You can even move a stone's throw away from the stadium. But they're just going to break your heart. Ultimately, they're going to lose the Super Bowl. It's what they do. That's your public. That's your PSA for this episode of the Online Trader Show. Like, don't go. What's in that? Don't go breaking my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go breaking your heart. Sing that to your Clubhouse app every night before you go to bed. Because nobody knows it. Nobody knows. So, speaking of the Love Boat,
Yeah, what's the topic?
this
This is a Carolina topic, I think, right? Because it's feelings.
No, this is the topic that I proposed this topic weeks ago, Jonathan. You just
Yes,
you
right.
never acknowledge anything that I do. It's always Kero. Marsha. I came up with the topic. You just don't even see me anymore, Dad. So,
Carolina, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you on this.
whatever. Ever since Carol got adopted, it's all about her. What about me? But we're talking about when you hit that slump, man. Kettle, would you like to expand on the topic that you obviously created?
I really think that
Yes. Okay,
talk
so
about her
this topic, I mean, I had this idea and no, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
It was totally Ren. It was totally Ren.
The disrespect.
So I love seeing Ren suggest this topic because we're basically talking today about when you've lost your passion, you've lost your mojo, you're in a slump and in your business and you don't know how to do it. And I'm like, woo, let's go for that because that happens to me like once every 4 months, like once per quarter. Approximately, I'm reevaluating like every life choice that has led me to where I am. I'm like, oh my God, am I any good at this? Should I not? So I hear you.
I can conservatively say I spend 80% of my existence in business in that state.
Yeah.
Like I'm more slumped than not slumped. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, and you keep going, right? Like you just it attaches very well to what Jonathan talked about, which I love that you turned that into a post the other day, by the way, Jonathan, talking about that moment when things hit because people just love that post so much. Mm-hmm. You could feel the epiphany sweeping across the thread of that post as people realize that you don't have to be perfect to be ultimately successful in this business.
You will feel
have to
like
stick
a
around.
failure. Yeah, you will feel like a failure the vast majority of your time.
Most of the time.
Upwards of 95% of the time you will feel like a failure. And
oh my gosh, that's my life.
Not in short incremental gains, but quantum leaps.
Yeah. It really does.
And this is not an online training thing. This is a phenomenon across all disciplines. I use the example of Monster Drinks, which is one of the best performing stocks of all time. At 130,000% increase, it moved backwards 95% of the time.
Right.
This is not. I mean, this goes across all disciplines. The key is being there. Is still showing up every single day, is doing the right work, catching that lucky break that's going to catapult you to the next level. And then once you do that, not resting on your laurels, because very quickly that next level is going to become your new normal and you're going to feel hopeless and like a failure again.
Right.
Yep. Rinse and repeat. It's true. It's totally true.
I feel attacked.
I didn't know you were going to get this personal on us, John.
Right. Oh my gosh. I didn't authorize this. How true is this though, Keto? Right? Like, I mean, there's just periods where it seems like just absolutely nothing that you do is working at all in any way. It's the darkest pit of despair, darker than the pit of despair that is Instagram, John. But it's the darkest pit of despair you've ever been in, and there's no ladder, there's no light, there's no tunnel. Like, so what do you do when you're in those situations?
And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people sign up for your program.
Right.
And you're like, hey, how did you hear about me? And they're like, I've been following your material for years, and I love it.
5 years.
You're like, I literally have never seen your name once.
Exactly.
I didn't know you're a human that existed on this planet, ma'am.
Yep.
And then,
There they are.
they're quoting your. Oh, I love the one you did about the about how squats are like chocolate. That just really. I'm like, that was in 2014. Like,
Why
you
are
remember
squats
that?
like chocolate? Why are squats like chocolate?
Darker chocolate is better for you, and deeper squats are, Jonathan. That's an analogy that I don't have the time nor the temperament to get into today, sir.
I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm scared for when I do.
Yeah, we'll circle back around to it on episode 100. But Keto, I want to hear from Keto, Jonathan. If you'll allow, can I please, sir? Can I finish?
I'd love to hear from Caro, because this topic that she came up with is just so good.
It's just so good. Oh, she got a request. She got a life-size request card now.
No, I need you to know that I just received it today because Amber freaking sent it to me. It's especially made for me. For those who are not seeing us on YouTube, it's a woman holding a flag with a fist up, and it says in big bold letters, "Request to speak." So
I love that.
Yes, thank you, Amber. I love it too.
Amber strikes once again.
More of those? Is that the only one?
Just the
There's
one.
just one. Okay.
Just the one. Okay. Did I pay for that, Amber? Oh, you paid for it? Okay.
That's why there's only one, Jonathan. Had you paid for it, there'd be a 12-pack of cards. So Keto, you've requested to speak, and you've got a picture of a lady with what I can only assume is cheese on her head. I don't understand. Be a Green Bay Packers fan, I can't really understand the imagery there. But so what do you do when you get into these situations? You fold it all up, right? You quit. You
Totally. Throw it all away. Never show my face in public again. No. So what happens is that I've learned this about myself. I go through ebbs and flows. And for anybody listening right now, you need to start identifying that this might be you as well. Because if we think about it, we have this very unrealistic ideal of what productivity should look like. If I'm not waking up at 4 a.m. and hustling and going to bed late, in the meanwhile, I'm also keeping a tidy house and cooking nutritious meals and educating my children and being a wonderful part. It's like, nobody can do all that. Just let it go. Just let it go. Like, nobody can. So, and in the ebbs and flows, so there was a time in my life in which I judged myself very harshly, like productivity wise, at the end of the day, that's capitalism for you, right? It teaches you that you're only worthy when you are producing, when you are earning, when you are making, when you are creating. And if you're not churning out or making a decent income and surpassing your own goals, then you're basically a failure. And I think it's time that we start kind of like really sitting down with our beliefs around productivity and around money making, and start seeing what serves us today and what beliefs we want to keep for ourselves because we choose them, and which ones are outdated and harmful and we're ready to let them go. Because that's kind of like an important, I think, part of the process, just fleshing out the stuff that is really hurting us because they work against us essentially. And once I got to that point that I was able to distinguish what wasn't really mine and what I didn't want to keep anymore, I started exploring okay, so I see all these stories about amazing people doing incredible things because, they hustle so hard. And what I know about myself is that I enjoy a really good hard hustle every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a sprinter. I can go for a short period of time and do, make, get excited, get energetic, get all this stuff, and then I'm done. And I'm like,
Right.
whoop,
Right.
and I coop into myself and I'm done. I don't want to put anything out. I don't want to take a selfie. I don't want to talk to people. And that's okay. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I've set up my business in a way in which when I'm hitting that high of feeling very energetic and very productive, I set it up so that I'm making enough money that's going to carry me through the lower valley of being
Mm-hmm.
low key. And it
Mm-hmm.
works out. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have, thousands of employees, but I don't want any of that either. That's not the life that I'm going for. And so the way that I have my business set up functions so well for me because it allows me the space to read, to be super present with my kids, to do my, professional bird watching or whatever the
Of course. Of course.
heck.
There's
Oh,
that.
yeah, like or whatever the heck it is that I want to do, right? So that to me is more valuable. But that's something that I found out throughout really kind of like discerning what beliefs around productivity were not serving me anymore. And so that's an invitation, I guess, to our listeners tonight to kind of like go through that for yourself.
The question to me, thank you for sharing that, Carolina. I'm looking forward to learning more about your bird watching. I actually read a book about bird watching about a month ago.
Oh yeah.
It just happened. I'm like dying when I travel. Of course, I only travel with a few physical books because they're super heavy, and I'm like dying for physical books. And the physical books that you find here and in like most like tourist places are basically all crappy spy novels or romance books, and I just can't do that. And so there was a book on something called The Big Year, which is a book. It was surprisingly entertaining, but it was about bird watchers and how bird watchers try to go for a big year to see who can find as many or see as many birds as possible over the course of a year in North America. And it's the story of like a bunch of people who did that. And so I know a lot about bird watching. Really.
Can I ask Carol a question? Like when the Olympic Committee makes bird watching an actual competitive sport, would you represent Canada or Mexico? I'm intrigued to know
that's
this
a
answer.
tough one. That is a really tough one. Let me sit with that.
We'll circle back around to that. Maybe that's the title for episode 100. Maybe that's our topic.
Hard decision. Because like Canada and Mexico, I would think would have similar budgets for the Olympics, which is
Probably.
Whereas
right.
the United States is high. Like I had a friend in high school who had dual citizenship, Canada and the United States, and she represented the states because basically they gave her money in Canada.
More money.
But Canada and Mexico is a good question. I don't know what that would be.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, John. But so the big year.
Here's what I was going to say. Well, no, that was irrelevant. That was just me getting off topic.
Are you saying that you're about to say something that is relevant? I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to be hurt again, Jonathan. All right, go ahead.
1 in 10. 1 in 10, man. 1 in 10.
Go ahead.
1 in 20. Hey, 1 in 15 to 20.
More like that.
Yeah, more like that. I think what is most valuable is to understand the game that you're playing and not compare yourself to people who are playing a different game. Mm-hmm. There are and there is nothing wrong with playing different games. Mm-hmm. And when I say games, there are games where you can choose financial goals, extrinsic goals, or where you can dive deep into intrinsic goals. There are games where you try to maximize efficiency and profit. There are games where you try to optimize efficiency and profit, but not at the cost of other things, particularly personal life or outside hobbies or volunteerism or philanthropy or whatever, right? And what is valuable to understand is to become okay to first of all become aware of whatever game you want to be playing, right? Mm-hmm. And understand what cost is involved in playing that game, and to not compare yourself to people who are playing different games. Mm-hmm. I think that's what matters most, because no matter what, if you're comparing yourself to people playing other games, it's like, I think I've spoken about it in the podcast before, but a long time ago. It's really, really funny because I fall into this trap all of the time where somebody who I know, just because I'm in communities with some incredible people, like I have friends right now who are in the middle of what could be the biggest crowdfunding campaign of all time. They raised $3 million on the first day. And And it's going on right now. It'll be going on when this episode goes live. It's called Lomi, Lomi. It's a desktop composter, and it's a fantastic product. They were telling me about it about a month ago. They walked me through it on the phone about what was going on. I asked them to invest in the company. They said no, so I don't like them. But the reality is, one part of me is really jealous. It's like, oh shit, like I wish that I did that. You know, people who get accolades, for example. And then I take a look at it and I'm like, well, I don't want to work as hard as they do. I don't care about the product that they care about. I don't want to have a 5-person team in Asia, you know, doing purchasing and manufacturing and just like, I don't want those things. So why the hell am I comparing myself to those people? They're playing a completely different game. Why don't I just be happy for them that there is legitimately very good people who are some of the best marketers in the world doing incredible work with an incredible product, making an absolute shit ton of money and actually making a real difference in the world, because 60 to 70% of garbage that ends up in our landfills that contributes to greenhouse gases is food waste that can be composted and turned into soil and put into your garbage. So like, why can I not be happy for them? Right? They're playing a different game, and I have to check myself. And it's interesting because I know that people compare themselves to me who are playing a different game than me. And I compare myself to other people who I'm playing a different game from, right? It's just, it's human nature to do it. But I think it's very valuable to keep going back to this and say, okay, first of all, go through the process of saying, you know, what do I want? Why do I want? What am I willing to pay for it in terms of time and energy, and also like giving up some stuff, right? Personal stuff, whatever. What am I willing to not pay? Okay, those are my constraints. Those are my limitations. I'm going to compare myself and get motivation from people who are similar to me in that respect. And other people, I can then be free to either ignore them or be legitimately happy for their success.
Right.
And I'm saying that as like an outsider, and it's really easy to speak about this. It's really easy to speak about this as an outsider when you're not in the situation yourself. It's one of those things where like, you know, your buddy's having trouble with your girlfriend and you're like, oh, you should just split with her. Like, she's not good for you. It's like, that's a lot easier to say when it's not you in that relationship. And you've got to go back on Tinder at the end of all of this, you know? A lot easier to say. So I get it. It's so unbelievably hard, and I do it, and it's common, and it's human nature. And the way that I deal with it is I take a lot of time to really consider what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what are the costs that I'm willing to pay, and then I can revisit that when I find myself in funks, which happens a lot.
Right. So I think when you're in a down period of a funk, if you've experienced it more than once in your life, you sort of realize that you're going to go through these cycles, right? Like it's easier to sustain through it if you've already been through it one time, right? My question, as I throw out to the panel, my question for you guys is, how do you get through it that first time? Like, do you just trust that some mentor is telling you, hey, you're going to get through this, it's okay? Or is there something that happens inside your brain that allows you to utilize the methodology to keep going? Like what do you? I mean, anybody can answer. Like, what are your thoughts there, Keto, John, Amber?
Yes, I have an actual strategy, I guess, that in hindsight it would have been really helpful the first time that I went through this, because the first time I did really believe like, oh, I'm just not cut for this. Like I should just give up and, you know, leave the industry and all this stuff.
Go back to Mary Kay in the pink photo.
Right.
I get it. That's an attractive offer. Anytime you've earned a pink donkey for makeup sales, I'd want to go back to that. I get it. But you stuck it out. So how did you do that? How do you stick it out?
So the first step is identifying it. And for me, that comes from when I catch myself repeatedly thinking, why can't I just whatever? Why can't I just work harder or work for longer or be better at this or focus more or have more or whatever? Like that is a very judgmental way of questioning yourself. So if you're having those thoughts, that's a way of catching yourself, that you're kind of like in a shaky path, and that's okay. Like we all, like we're saying, we all go through this. But that's usually like a really good clue for myself to be like, oh, wait, let me sit back and consider this, because I know we're.
Can you share, Carolina? Because I'm really curious as you were talking there. What are some of the questions you say to yourself? You mentioned a few of them just as you were saying.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I could be more or do more. Can you do some of them spring to mind? Some of the ones that keep coming back and like really bother you?
Yeah, like for me, I've always had an issue with focus, just in general. Like I'm one of those, I have like 47 tabs open, and I'm consistently like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so for that's something that I can beat myself up over if I'm not catching myself. It doesn't have to be a negative against myself, but when I'm in that judgmental place, I do judge myself for even that, even though it's not like a deal breaker. So why can't I just focus more like other people do? Yeah, like why can't I just be more consistent like other coaches are? Why can't I just like put more effort into things like I see other people doing? Those
Does anything trigger that? Like you say. I hope it's okay that I'm going.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I'm
Yeah.
really interested in it. You say to yourself, why can't I focus more like other people do? What makes you think that other people focus more?
Well, that's the thing, right? I don't sit and question my peers. Hey, how long do you focus? I don't actually know. And it's not relevant, but it's the story that we tell ourselves about how we suck in comparison to others. That's the key there. It's irrelevant whether it's true or not. It's probably not even true. Other people might struggle more than me, and I don't even know it. I've never proven it. It's just I'm beating myself up. I'm in that mind frame, right?
Is there anything that triggers it that you can fix?
Sorry, Ren, just to answer his question, what triggers it? Yeah, sorry?
No, go ahead.
So what triggers it for me is when I've had a few days, like down days in which I haven't necessarily produced a ton of content, like again, because it's the productivity trap, right? It's still ingrained, even though I catch myself, it's still ingrained in me that if I'm not producing and making money, I am not as worthy as I could be. And that's such a freaking like mind trap, really, because it can really set you up for failure if you really go down that path. But it's still there because it's a chip that I very much inherited from hardworking parents and hardworking grandparents and an entire culture and institution that teaches you that unless you're making money, you are not as valuable as other people who do. And so, yes, so having downtime starts this kind of like turning process of me like, wait, am I being lazy? Why can't I just work harder like other people do? Why can't I do more, do better, do excel or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I see you're about to go through steps, and I want to make sure we get all the steps for the episode.
We're almost, yes.
Yeah, because I think it's going to be a great blueprint for the people that are listening to the episode to have some type of takeaway methodology that they might be able to implement. So first, the first step is acknowledging and understanding that you're having these thoughts, these judgmental thoughts. So where do you go from there?
So then the next step after that is like, okay, so you're catching that. And then now you get a decision. Every time that you're in awareness of your thoughts, you get a choice. That's the beauty of awareness, that once you're aware of what you're doing to yourself, you get to decide what your next step is. So sometimes for me, that next step can look like I discover like the next step that feels right for me. Maybe that next step is actually resting and taking a break and giving myself permission for a full week or maybe even more or less, it doesn't matter, of legitimately not working. But once I've done it consciously, it feels better to do it than otherwise telling myself that I'm being lazy and neglecting my responsibilities. So that's A. And the other one is B, discovering that I do have a goal that is starting to kind of like, move inside of me. And so I work it backwards. So this is what I want to achieve. I would like to see, I don't know, this amount of income, revenue or whatever, for no particular reason. This is an amount that I want, work it back. And so I start getting that energy of action, because if we remember the quote, action is the antidote to despair, right? So when you're feeling that taking action is a very kind of like magical thing. So yeah, so my taking action can look like making the decision to rest, fully rest, or making the decision to find a goal that excites me, that gets me going again, and working back to create kind of like some sort of plan and then get it going from there.
That makes sense. I totally get that. I was going to ask Jonathan that question. Is it okay to rest? Like I think in entrepreneurship, it's easy to not want to rest because that just blows everything. But I think that it's the same error that we make in fitness, where people want to exercise all the time and not rest. Like, is it important? Is it important to, as you acknowledge and recognize what's going on, Jonathan? Is it important to do what Keto said? Take the action of saying, you know what, I need to sit for a day and not do something. Like, I'm pushing hard and it's making me counterproductive. Like, do you accept that as an answer, Jonathan?
I think it's very important to know yourself well and what you need in response to that. Philosophically, yeah, sure. For me, it doesn't work.
Right.
I'm so routine oriented that I am petrified taking a day off a workout. I'm petrified taking a day off work because I'm afraid it'll wreck my routine.
Right. Right.
That it's not that I feel guilty about taking a day off or time off or anything like that. It's because my routine is everything. And that's just me, right? With my workouts, I mean, I will beat myself down to exhaustion. And I will still wake up before my family and go to the gym and just do much less in a workout just because I need to maintain the routine. And work for me is kind of the same. I mean, I often kick off early work and go and rest if I feel like I need it, but I usually start the day working. And I usually have the same routine to get working in the day, and then I read myself. So I think, obviously, I mean, I'm somebody who believes very, very strongly in work-life balance and how it's way more important to have a good family life and have time for the people that matter than it is to feel like you need to chase all of these fancy things in life for no real good reason and give up, time with the people who really matter as a result of it. But at the same time, I'm petrified of ruining my routine.
That makes sense.
And so what I've done with that is I've just gotten really, 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 really good at getting myself into routines, at triggering myself into routines. That's the core of my habits. So for me, Ren, the answer is no. But that's not to say it's for everybody. I think everybody is just different.
So
Carolina wants to speak, and then we should probably wrap this up.
Absolutely. So I love the fact that you said that, because I think the listeners need to know that there are multiple ways to work through this, and they're based on your ability to self-assess and to know thyself. But Keto, what did you want to chime in with?
The last kind of like strategy that I have for getting out of a funk, and this is very much triggered by what Jonathan was saying, but this is very much a me thing. I would not just openly recommend it. Like, this is, if you know yourself and you know this is going to work for you, then go for it, because it's really powerful. And maybe if you're not my type of personality, then don't. But another thing that I do quite successfully is that I corner myself into having no choice but getting something like done. So whether that's a big commitment, whether that's a public announcement, whether that's launching a program before I feel like I'm ready. Sometimes, for example, when OTA 2 came out and I was part of the very first group with Ren, signing into OTA 2 was that thing for me. At that time, I was in a very difficult time in my life, in a very deep, deep valley. And I was like, I'm going to do this because this feels right. And this feels like the jolt that I need right now to force myself into action. And it actually worked. But because that's my personality, this by no means it means that you should end up with a $20,000 business coach, quote unquote, that is going to just, put you into debt or whatever crazy things other people do. Like, I've never done any of the super risky stuff like that, because it's not worth it for me, I don't recommend it, do corner yourself into action, into positive action.
I love so recognizing what's going on, acknowledging it, being aware. Awareness leads to the fact that you have a choice now. You can make a choice when you're aware. You can make the choice to rest and recover. You can make the choice to take a different action, dive deeper. You can make a choice to sort of paint yourself into a corner. What is it, the Thomas Edison thing, Jonathan? He put the ad in the newspaper, full page ad. I'm going to event X on Y date. Announce what you're about to do, so you have no choice but to act. But I think the overall sort of theme of this episode is when you're in a funk. Number one, if you keep going, you're probably going to work yourself out of it. Like there are very few permanent funks, right? Yep. Other than James Brown and maybe George Clinton, I can't think of any other permanent funk out there. But James Brown had a permanent funk. He rides with the funk. It's the super heavy funk, if you know what I mean. But you're gonna get out of it. Understanding the awareness of when you're in it and what you can possibly choose to do is also important. And understanding that there aren't people that don't go through it. There's nobody that doesn't go through it. No matter what you perceive, no matter what they say on the internet, everybody's going to go through it. It's just the nature of humanity and the nature of business. If you want to actively learn ways to avoid that funk, you can launch your successful online training career or your money back with the Online Trainer Academy. The Academy is at onlinetrainer.com/OTA.
Well done.
We're ready to feel your funk in the OTA. I don't know. I didn't know what else to say. Jonathan, Catalina, Amber, I shudder to think. Anything to add here? Anything that we're missing? Feeling good? Jonathan's double parked outside, and Keto's
feeling great.
Yeah, all right. Feeling great. Feeling good. How are you? So this has been a riveting episode of the Online Trainer Show with all of the people here that you heard, whoever they are, Jonathan and me and the women. Show notes can be found at onlinetrainer.com. onlinetrainer.com/podcast. I almost messed that up. I was on the streak. I don't want my streak to end. Maybe I'm in a funk. Maybe I should reassess. Tune in next time for our next riveting and emotionally charged episode of the Online Trainer Show. Jingle or whatever.
This is the Online Trainer Show. Trainer Show. Trainer Show. This is the Online Trainer Show. We shouldn't have a podcast.